Charles has previously suggested he wants to reduce that to just 8 senior members for financial and practical reasons. Now, Camilla is queen consort, so she is one of those 8 automatically.
Whispers are swirling again in the royal halls, but this time it's not about Harry or Meghan. Instead, all eyes are on Princess Anne and young Princess Charlotte. What began as an innocent moment inside Queen Camilla's private chambers has sparked a discovery so shocking that it threatens to shake the monarchy's trust and unravel deep ties within the House of Windsor. The most unlikely pair may have uncovered a secret that could change everything. Are the royals ready for the truth? Francis Shand Kidd's letters uncovered in Camilla's suite. During a routine tidy-up of Queen Camilla's private suite, Princess Anne and young Princess Charlotte discovered a hidden drawer. Inside were personal letters, possibly written by Diana's mother, Francis Shand Kidd. Although Buckingham Palace has made no official comment, reliable sources have hinted at their origin. By the time of Diana's death, she had not spoken with her mother for several months.
Diana was killed there early today in a car crash along with companion Dodi Al-Fayed and a chauffeur.
Their relationship had been strained because of divorce and custody issues. Francis even told the court during Diana's former butler Paul Burrell's trial that they had been apart for 4 months before Diana passed away. Decades later, finding these letters in Camilla's suite shocked many at the palace. They could offer a window into Francis's feelings, her regrets, her worries about Diana, and possibly her views on how the royal family handled Diana's memory. Once found, Princess Anne, known for her directness, insisted the letters be collected and safely stored. Princess Charlotte's chance discovery hinted at the next generation taking up the responsibility to preserve Diana's story. Plans are underway, with Prince William's blessing, to place the letters in a private archive. There, trusted historians will study selected passages, and some parts may be shared publicly, but only after careful review by the royal family. Francis Shand Kidd lived a life of highs and lows. Born into privilege, pushed away from her children after her divorce, finding comfort in faith and charity later on. Her words, if genuine, remind us that behind royal titles are real people with regrets and hopes. What Princess Anne and Princess Charlotte uncovered may not shake the monarchy, but it adds depth to its story. Hidden quietly in Camilla's suite, these letters could bring back Francis's voice, helping future generations better understand Diana's family.
Princess Diana's eldest sister, Lady Sarah McCorquodale, shares openly about her torment.
Whether they reveal a final confession or a long-buried truth, they promise to enrich Diana's legacy. Before becoming a princess's mother, Frances Ruth Burke Roche was born on January 20, 1936, at Park House, on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, England. This estate was owned by the British royal family, which meant she grew up close to royalty. Her father, Maurice Roche, 4th Baron Fermoy, was a friend of King George VI. Her mother, Ruth Roche, was a lady-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So Frances came from a noble and well-connected family. Because of her father's title, she was called the Honorable Frances Roche. She attended a private girls' school and was raised to understand the duties and traditions of upper-class British society. At just 18 years old, Frances married Edward John Spencer, Viscount Althorp, on June 1, 1954, at Westminster Abbey.
Escorted by the Duke of Edinburgh, was the guest of honor at the wedding of her friend, the Honourable Frances Roche.
It was a grand wedding, attended by members of the royal family, including Queen Elizabeth II. Frances became Viscountess Althorp after marriage. Together, Frances and John Spencer had 5 children: Lady Sarah, Lady Jane, John, Diana Spencer, and Charles. Sadly, their marriage began to fall apart. Frances was unhappy and felt trapped. By the mid-1960s, she had fallen in love with another man, Peter Shand Kidd, an Australian businessman who had made money through wallpaper manufacturing. In 1967, Frances left her husband and children to be with Peter. This caused a huge scandal at the time. Divorce was rare among aristocrats, and people were shocked that Frances had left her family. After a bitter legal fight, her husband won custody of their children. Diana, who was only 6 years old, stayed with her father at Althorpe House. Frances officially divorced John Spencer in 1969 and married Peter Shand Kidd later that year. She then became known as Frances Shand Kidd. Difficult relationship with Diana. After marrying Peter Shand Kidd, Frances moved to Scotland and lived a quieter life. She and Peter lived on the Isle of Sail, near Oban, a small coastal town. For many years, she stayed out of the public spotlight. However, her life changed dramatically again when her daughter Diana married Prince Charles in 1981 and became Princess of Wales.
Which is basically that it's a very great pleasure for me to come to Wales and to its capital, Cardiff.
Although Frances was proud of Diana, their relationship remained strained. Diana had never fully forgiven her mother for leaving the family. Some reports say they were often distant, and at times they did not speak at all. In fact, by the time of Diana's tragic death, Frances and Diana were reportedly not on speaking terms. One reason their relationship was strained was that Frances was said to be supportive of Prince Charles during the breakup of his and Diana's marriage. Frances also disliked the media attention and found it hard to cope with the spotlight that came with being Diana's mother. In 1988, Frances and Peter Shand Kidd separated, and she remained living in Scotland. During this time, she became deeply religious. She converted to Roman Catholicism and started helping with local church charities. Her faith became an important part of her later life. After Diana's death in the car crash, Frances was devastated. She helped care for Diana's 2 sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, during their mourning. Frances received thousands of condolence letters and responded to many of them personally. However, she also faced some legal trouble. In 1996, just before Diana's death, Frances was charged with drunk driving and was banned from driving for a year. She later admitted that the pressure of being related to such a famous person had affected her deeply. In 2002, Frances gave evidence during the trial of Paul Burrell, Diana's former butler. She stated that her daughter had stopped communicating with her before she died. This testimony made headlines and revealed how much pain remained in their relationship. Final years and death. In her later years, Frances Shand Kidd tried to live a quiet, spiritual life. She stayed on the Isle of Sail and became well known in her local community for her charity work, her humility, and her devotion to her faith. Despite their personal difficulties, she always said she was proud of Diana and wanted to protect her memory. After Diana's death, she gave a few interviews but mostly stayed away from the press. Friends and neighbors described her as kind-hearted, private, and strong in her beliefs. Frances suffered from Parkinson's disease and also battled brain cancer. On June 3, 2004, she passed away peacefully at her home in Scotland at the age of 68. Her funeral was held at St. Columba's Cathedral in Oban. It was attended by her children and grandchildren, including Prince William and Prince Harry. Her ex-husband, Earl Spencer, and her surviving daughters, Lady Sarah and Lady Jane, were also there. Prince Charles, who had official engagements, did not attend the funeral. Frances Shand Kidd's life was full of complexity. She was born into nobility, became the mother of a princess, and later suffered public judgment for choices she made as a young woman. She experienced love, heartbreak, scandal, and grief, all in the public eye. Her relationship with Diana was often difficult, but in her final years, she focused on doing good in her local community. She found comfort in her religion and tried to live a life of service, especially after her daughter's tragic passing.
Across the world, millions are trying to come to terms with the awful tragedy of Diana's untimely death.
Today, Frances is remembered for her role in Princess Diana's life, but also for being a woman who went through great personal challenges. She made choices that shocked many, but she also showed strength by facing the consequences and finding a new path later in life. Frances and Diana's butler trial. In October 2002, Paul Burrell, Princess Diana's devoted butler, faced trial at the Old Bailey.
I was 18. I was naive and young and innocent. I didn't know what the world was about.
Accused of stealing 310 items belonging to Diana, Prince Charles, and Prince William. These items included letters, clothes, mementos, and gifts. Burrell defended himself by revealing that soon after Diana's death, he had private conversations with Queen Elizabeth II in which he explained he was taking these belongings for safekeeping. The Queen testified that Burrell had informed her he was holding on to the items to protect Diana's legacy, information previously unknown to the prosecution. As a result, the jury was dismissed, and Burrell was acquitted. The trial fell apart due to the sudden disclosure that he had not acted secretly but in consultation with the Queen. During the trial, Frances Shand Kidd, Diana's mother, was also called to the stand. She admitted shredding between 50 and 100 papers following Diana's death, describing them as thank you notes and innocuous correspondence. Frances maintained that she had no objection to preserving any of Diana's royal possessions. She carried out the shredding herself and denied any wrongdoing. Burrell's testimony also shed light on his complicated relationship with Frances. He recounted an incident months before Diana's death, where Frances angrily referred to Diana's romantic choices, particularly criticizing her relationships with Muslim men, calling it whore behavior during a conversation that left Diana deeply upset. Moreover, Burrell told the court that Diana had used him as a sounding board, describing him as my rock, though Frances disputed this term, stating Diana used it more broadly. The Queen's unexpected testimony reshaped the entire case. She disclosed that Burrell had confided in her about safeguarding Diana's items. This revelation prompted the judge to throw out the entire case, collapsing the prosecution's argument that Burrell had stolen the items secretively. After the court proceedings, Burrell published memoirs, A Royal Duty, The Way We Were, but he faced backlash from Diana's sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, who said his disclosures betrayed their mother's memory. Diana's tragic crash and Camilla's victory? On 30th August 1997, Princess Diana and her companion Dodi Fayed left the Ritz Hotel in Paris via a rear exit in an attempt to avoid paparazzi attention. They were in the back of a black Mercedes-Benz S280, driven by Henri Paul, deputy head of security at the Ritz. Shortly after entering the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the car smashed at high speed into a concrete pillar.
Diana's driver, along with Dodi El Fayed, had died at the scene of the accident.
Investigations revealed that Henri Paul was intoxicated. His blood alcohol level was over 3 times the French legal limit, and he had traces of prescription drugs in his system. A British inquest later concluded Diana and Dodi were unlawfully killed due to grossly negligent driving by Paul and the chase by paparazzi. Firefighter Xavier Gourmelon helped rescue Diana from the wreckage, despite not realizing she was the princess at first. He recalled she regained consciousness briefly and softly said, "Oh my God, what's happened?" before falling silent again. Though he thought she might survive, Diana suffered a cardiac arrest en route to the hospital and was later pronounced dead at Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital in the early hours of the next morning, aged just 36. Her bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was the only survivor, severely injured. The deaths of Diana, Dodi, and Henri sent shockwaves globally, igniting enormous public grief and increased scrutiny of paparazzi practices and the monarchy's vulnerability. Princess Anne. Growing suspicion of Camilla after Diana's death. It all began like a quiet lunch visit. Princess Anne, practical, loyal to her brother King Charles III, had started to worry. Camilla had been taking on more public duties while Charles, dealing with health concerns, stepped back. Her growing role felt unusual to Anne and others. When Camilla canceled several events, citing exhaustion, Anne didn't simply accept the explanation. She decided to check in on her and brought along Princess Charlotte, who had spent the weekend at Windsor. Charlotte, curious like her late grandmother, Princess Diana was determined to discover the real story beneath royal formality. Inside Camilla's private quarters, something felt wrong. The doors were shut, curiously quiet. Staff told Camilla had left early for her home in Wiltshire, Raymill House, taking no aids. Anne felt uneasy. Using her master key, she unlocked the silent room. It was neat. No fresh flowers, no tea tray, just the soft scent of lavender in the air. Then Charlotte noticed an old wooden trunk hidden behind a divider. It had a single brass clasp and bore an engraved monogram, D.S. Diana Spencer. "What is this?" Charlotte whispered, eyes wide. Anne placed a gloved hand on the latch and carefully lifted the lid. Inside lay dozens of items belonging to Princess Diana. Handwritten letters, private journals, photos, keepsakes, many never seen since Diana's death in August 1997. Some items were personal. One letter was labeled, "For my sons, in case something ever happens to me." Another, written just months before the Paris car crash, was addressed to Queen Elizabeth in red ink. Diana's journal entries mentioned voices in her head, a fear that palace phones were tapped, and a haunting worry that she might not live to see her children grow up. All emotions she had previously voiced publicly in interviews and in Andrew Morton's 1992 biography, Diana, Her True Story. Anne stayed silent, her thoughts racing. How did Camilla come to possess these deeply private belongings? Two troubling possibilities emerged. Either Camilla took the items during the chaotic days after Diana's death, when Diana's possessions were removed from Kensington Palace, or someone in the royal family handed them over. Could Charles have done that? The very idea felt like a betrayal of Diana and her sons, William and Harry, who had always been told their mother's final wishes were theirs. Anne uncovers a hidden link between Camilla and Diana. The mystery deepened when Anne found a sealed envelope at the bottom of the trunk, marked "Private, Do Not Open, Eyes Only." Inside were previously unseen photos of Diana smiling in Highgrove Gardens with William and Harry. But one photograph shook Anne deeply. Diana, standing alone in a hallway at Clarence House just weeks before she died.
The Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident. Dodi Fayed also died, the driver of the car.
Standing next to her, only half visible, was a woman wearing a gold bracelet, one that Camilla had often been seen wearing. Was Camilla secretly present in Diana's final days? These discoveries added new layers to old scandals. In 1989, Charles and Camilla's intimate phone call was secretly recorded and leaked in 1993.
1989 telephone conversation between the prince and his former girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles.
In what came to be known as Camillagate, or Tampongate, a controversy that deeply embarrassed the royals. And before she died, Diana reportedly told a close confidant that she did not blame Camilla for the breakdown of her marriage to Charles. She blamed the people around him instead. That challenges the idea that Camilla was the true cause of their split. Now, Anne faced a choice. If Camilla had taken Diana's belongings on her own, it suggested a cold, calculated move, an act of disrespect toward Diana's memory. If someone else gave them to Camilla, that person had violated Diana's legacy in a deeply personal way. Either way, keeping these items secret and then suddenly abandoning them in a locked room felt wrong. Why hide Diana's intimate writings and photos? And why leave them behind without explanation? Anne closed the trunk and shared a look with Charlotte. The calm lunch had turned into something far darker, a hidden revelation. And as secrets spilled out from that dusty chest, one thing became clear. Camilla's connection to Diana's private life was far deeper than anyone had believed. The hidden items and Diana's voice returns. According to reliable reports, Princess Anne asked why certain personal items belonging to Diana had gone missing, and why Camilla reportedly had kept some of Diana's belongings for quite some time. Camilla taken by surprise, said she had held on to them out of fear of what they meant. She insisted she didn't want to hurt anyone, and said she hoped understanding Diana better might bring peace. But some still wondered whether it was truly about peace or about control. Her emotional plea didn't settle the situation. Prince William was said to be upset and asked for everything to be returned to Diana's estate. When Princess Anne told Prince Harry, whom she did from a distance, he reportedly fell silent in shock. Soon, the rumors spread in the media. Headlines claimed things like Diana's secret diaries found in Camilla's bedroom and Princess Anne uncovers hidden chest in the palace. Sympathy for Diana's memory surged again. Some felt the discovery showed Camilla had never fully honored Diana's legacy. Others saw it as a sign of humanity, that Camilla too felt guilt, confusion, and the weight of royal history. One clear result was that Diana's voice was heard again. Many remember her for breaking the royal rule of never complain, never explain. She had publicly opened up about her battles with depression, bulimia, and feelings of worthlessness.
My husband's side were indicating that I was sick and should be put in a home of some sort in order to get better. I was almost an embarrassment.
That honesty changed everything. She became someone people could relate to, a royal who cried, felt pain, and acted with compassion. She visited hospital bedsides, held hands with the dying, and even walked near minefields in Angola.
Across an Angolan field scattered with deadly landmines left over from years of civil war.
This made her more than a princess. She became a global humanitarian icon. Diana's legacy lives on through her sons and memory. But above all, she was a mother. Her greatest love was for William and Harry. Both sons were deeply affected by her death, and both have since continued her mental health advocacy. William once said that after Diana died, the nation became more caring because people saw her genuine kindness.
But when a soldier is slow to follow orders, his mother has her own tactics for bringing him into line.
Quick, Marion will go.
Harry has been open about how deeply her loss affected him, and about his fears that Meghan could face similar struggles. Diana's influence has not faded. In 2002, she was voted the third greatest Briton in a BBC poll, higher than many monarchs. In 2020, Time named her one of the century's most influential women. These honors show that Diana changed much more than fashion and charity. She changed how we see emotion, vulnerability, and public life. Her early struggles, especially a strained relationship with her own mother, likely fueled her lifelong search for validation and love. Palace life often felt cold to her, but that inner pain also gave her a rare kind of empathy. She understood loneliness, hurt, and fear because she had lived them. That made her care all the more genuine. Now, that small chest in the royal private quarters, where once power and silence ruled, seems full of confession, regret, and memory. According to the trusted palace sources, once Anne recovered the items, they were going to be carefully archived by a private foundation. There's talk that, with William's approval, selected passages might one day be shared publicly. The chest was reportedly found by a family member, possibly Princess Charlotte, showing that the next generation is stepping up to preserve Diana's truth. This moment may not ruin the monarchy, but it has changed it. Diana's soul, once hidden, now speaks, and in doing so, moves both royals and the world. We hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more amazing stories.